All right, guys, this is something I normally do not do, but this person contacted me because they had gone to another shop and had work done, and they were having issues. How much had you spent at that point when you had the intermittent?
Maybe
You said it was
7,500 to 8.
7,500 to 8 grand. Okay, so he had spent this much, and he was having an issue with an intermittent door speaker. So he went to them, said, "Hey, can you check this out? I'm going to go on a road trip." And he said they couldn't do it. So he contacted me. He said, "Jason, I'm having an intermittent speaker issue. Can you take a look at it?" I found 2 loose connections at the amplifier. The set screws were tight. It's just the wiring was not fully seated as the set screws were tightened. So I fixed that. He also complained about an issue like he's not getting a full sound. So I looked at the truck and I moved the fader all the way forward, and I found that the speakers that are in the front of the truck are mid-ranges. They simply do not play mid-bass, and that full sound he was looking for was the lack of mid-bass. So he's here today. I'm going to replace the door speakers, but I know at some point, because I'm replacing the door speakers, his warranty is now going to be void with the shop. So squatted truck. So with that, I'm looking at what I'm going to be delving into when I start actually getting my hands on this. Today I'm just replacing the door speakers, getting some mid basses in so it sounds better. But let's take a look at what we're seeing in the engine bay. If we look at the battery, he has complained about a engine noise. If we look at the battery, first thing I see is this right here. This guy's just hanging up here. The reason it's hanging up is you've got this cable that is ran around, and that comes over and connects to the back of the alternator. So that could have been ran over here, and that would have allowed stuff to sit down properly. There's multiple ways to attack that. Over here on the ground, we have an additional ground going to the body, and you guys should be able to see there's a couple of self-tappers there where that is attached to the body, and you can see that is loose. Even though there's 2 self-tappers there, that ground is loose and rotates, so it's not a good solid ground at all. Follow that cable back to the battery. You guys can see here, this is just a ring terminal with the ring snapped off. They cut the end off of a ring terminal, and that is the washer being used at the negative on the battery. Now, still under hood, if we follow the power cable from the battery across, we get to where it's coming into the vehicle. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's not ran through the grommet, it's ran between the grommet and the sheet metal. So that is an issue that needs to be addressed. That right there is a safety issue with the main power shorting to ground as it rubs through the insulation on the 0 gauge and contacts the sheet metal of the firewall. Huge grommet there. They went between the grommet and the firewall instead of going through it. Next thing I've noticed, and you see I pulled the door panel. There's no sound deadening there. Again, you guys saw my sound deadening video. Sound deadening plastered across the inside. These logos look great, but we're not doing anything with this. If we take a deeper look at this, you can see the gap here in this. I can push my finger in there. That material is just kind of, look at that, it's just kind of there. And as I pull on this, you can see this piece come out. Down here, see the gap here I can push my finger into? It's just, this is not doing anything. It's not attached to anything. So all of this material here, do you mind if I just pull this?
Oh yeah.
I want to show you, I want to see for myself. All this material here that's covering this void isn't doing anything but covering the void. It's not sound deadening anything. It is sealing up the door, you know, creating a better, I guess, enclosure for the speaker, but it is not sealing up the door. So that is something that will be addressed in the future.
How many screws in the speaker there?
The speaker, we have one screw here, one screw here. These guys are missing, and if I get my screwdriver, I'm going to go ahead and run these guys out. And if we get this guy out of here, there's the connection. Now, his issue was he was having an intermittent connection at the speaker. And as you guys can see, what they did is they cut the factory speakers and used the housing. So when you're having an intermittent issue, it's likely a connection issue. So as you can see here, they took the tinsel leads of the old speakers, put spade terminals on them, put those spade terminals on these DS18 mid-ranges. So at one point, the system was playing, and as the system was playing, they took the door panel off, started messing with the problematic speaker, and when they did that, all 4 speakers in the vehicle, all 4 door speakers stopped playing. So obvious connection issue with the speaker. But this is the preliminary of this vehicle. At some point he's going to come back and I will go deeper in depth into what he has here. But this is the start of what we've got. What are you pointing? You're pointing at the door sill.
How it was ran, or
oh, we'll get into that later. But the zero gauge and the RCAs are ran together here. As you guys know, if you've got cheap RCAs that don't have good noise rejection, and if you got them ran along the power cable, you can have engine noise. So between knowing that they're ran together and we've got a bad ground over there, who knows what the other grounds look like. I haven't been into the vehicle. The most I've done for him at one point was check the connections at the amplifier because he had an intermittent speaker. I did not want to get into the install. But now I'm kind of having to get into the install. So we're gonna unfortunately probably redo a lot of the work that's already been done in the vehicle. So that is it. I just wanted to show you guys this sound deadening right here. Again, that 3-layer product, these logos look good as you do this, but a lot of times the shops will do this and not treat that outer skin where it actually matters. Remember, the outer skin, the large flat skin, is where you need this stuff. Putting it on that shaped and formed inner panel really doesn't do anything. So there it is. Going to replace that guy, do the same thing on the other side. All right, so I want to show you guys something. You can see where this door card was bolted to the inner door skin over that deadener. You can see the indentation there. So that's been bolted there, been there for a good long time. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but I want to take you to the opposite side. He has had an issue with the driver's side door card. As he pulls the door shut, there was play in it, and since all of the RCAs and the zero gauge and everything were ran right here in the sill plate, the sill plate was high and it was catching the bottom of the door. He thought that's the reason that the door card was coming off. But if you look, there's a very slight indentation here, and when this door card came off, these screws were not there. So the only one we had was the one that goes here. We pulled the cell panel off, and then it was just the plastic panel rivets that come in, but these 2 guys were absolutely missing. I'm going to go ahead and film removing this passenger side speaker. If we look, you guys will see I'm removing that one 7mm up top, and here this is actually attached in there. So if we go around and we look at this, you can see there's one screw here, no screw, one screw, and then no screw. And the reason there's no screw is because it's completely outside of the surface here. So that's an issue, something that we will address shortly. But I just wanted to shoot video of this and show you guys that sometimes the quick, cheap stuff isn't always quick and cheap in the end. So far I've found electrical issues that can cause fires in the vehicle, and yeah, drywall screws. 2 drywall screws mounting this speaker to what is the factory speaker housing. So I'm going to go inside, show you guys how I'm correcting this. Now, to make adapter plates for his new drivers, which are some Bema 6.5s, I took a piece of 1/4-inch PVC and looked up Bema's cutout diameter for that speaker. I cut that out, and then I took the speaker and marked my mounting locations for each of the 4 holes, and I used these guys, which are 832 threaded inserts. So by using these threaded inserts, I can thread those into the plastic from that point forward. I just use an 832 machine screw, and I'm not wearing out plastic if you install or remove drivers multiple times. So for some reason I did not hit record when I made the adapter plates, but all it was make the cutout diameter, put it in place, mark center locations for the 4 mounting holes, drill out, thread in the 832 inserts, and then with the speaker threaded and attached to the plate, I took the plate to the router, flush trimmed the outside edges of it, and then I bonded it to the actual factory speaker housing. I flattened it, made it nice and flush, so I had a nice surface to bond that plate to. So at that point, this is where we pick back up now that I did start recording. And now we were recording. All right, so I've got these rings made and they're bonded to this housing, but as you can see, I've got areas here that need to be trimmed. So what I'm gonna do is just flip this down, upside down, run it on the router, and go ahead and just flush trim so I have a nice opening there. And now we have a nice clean opening, and we can mount our speaker to that, put it in the vehicle, and it'll be ready to go. Now I don't know if you guys noticed in that last clip, but I had also removed this portion of the factory speaker, where the 2 spade terminals were installed on the tinsel leads. So what they did there is they cut out the factory speaker, removed all of that, and the tinsel leads they left long. They trimmed them at the driver and then put spade terminals on them. The issue that caused is you have these non-insulated spade terminals that are free to contact whatever is back there. If you hit a bump, they can move. And if you think about what's back there, you have all these non-insulated connections on the back side of this DS18 driver. So that's where his intermittent speaker issue is coming from. And we've got that taken care of. Other issues he had that I told him I did not have time for because I've got the Audi here, he's got ground noise. And when he talked to him about the ground noise, he was told that, well, all vehicles have a certain amount of engine noise, and when you amplify the signal, you amplify that noise. It's not the way it works. This intermittent speaker issue he had after he came to me and wanted me to take a look at it because they did not have time. I found that loose connection for one speaker at the amplifier, and his main power into the amplifier was also loose. I mean, you could just take thumb and finger and pull them out. So I went over those, reconnected them, make sure that was all secure. And again, I had the fader moved to the front to listen to his front speakers to see what he was identifying as missing in the sound. And what he was missing was the mid bass. And we've got that taken care of now. But another thing they tried to do to avoid his warranty was to say that whoever moved that fader to the front Well, a 4-channel amplifier only produces so much power, and it sends that power to all 4 speakers. And when you move the fader to the front, it's now sending all of that power to the front speakers, and that's what blew your speaker. I don't understand it. I was always taught that you're cutting power to the rear. You're not adding more to the front. But that's what he was told. Between the engine noise and the issue with the fader moved to the front, blowing his front speakers, the guy just kind of lost confidence in them, and he's coming to me now. You guys will see more on this vehicle in the future. He wanted me to take care of his ground issues while he was here. He wanted me to do some other stuff. I just didn't have the time for it. As a matter of fact, it's like a month later, and I'm just now adding this little short 3-minute section for the video. But I will see you guys later. You'll see more on this after the Audi is done. And I've also got a huge van project that you guys will get to see coming up in the future.